Shana Tova. Gemar Tov. Som Kal, wishing you a happy new year and a meaningful fast to all who are observing. My name is Reb Ezra Weinberg. I've been lucky enough to be the bridge rabbi, or as one kid said in the family service, the interim of the interim. But I'll say the bridge rabbi for your community for this high holiday season. From the little that I've observed so far, this is truly a special community. One of the frameworks we have used for the holiday so far is reorienting ourselves to tefillah, to prayer. Jewish prayers in their entirety are a lot. Just feel the weight of your machzor. That's 3 days worth of prayers right there. But actually, the task of these holidays is much bigger. The prayers we use are just one tool to help us do something far more arduous, and that is to change our minds and our hearts and our lives. Some of you heard me say this a lot, but but Jewish tradition is asking us to get interested in our own liberation. And part of that is getting curious about our tendency for small-mindedness. Tonight, I want to see our small-mindedness and acknowledge it, and then break out of it. True curiosity can make us ask questions, and questions are actually another crucial tool for our own liberation. And as we begin the Kol Nidre service in a few minutes, I want you to begin formulating your own questions. Get curious about your own liberation and what blocks you from taking that on or taking it up to the next level. We'll continue with Hine Matov. Just as a reminder, if you haven't done so yet, I ask please silence your phones. Nobody wants to be that person whose phone goes off during Kol Nidre. In the spirit of good questions, I'm going to invite you to embrace a more counterintuitive approach to prayer. Let's begin to imagine the questions we'd like to bring into our mind today. What are your questions about Yom Kippur? Why are you here? Why do any of this? What do we believe will actually come of it? Those are some of my Yom Kippur questions. What are yours? Let me ask it this way. If coming to shul, coming to synagogue on Yom Kippur is the answer, what's the question? I invite you to keep asking questions. Answers are less important. What is the one question you'll take home with you tonight? Get curious about yourself. Go find that question. We'll continue in the small book, the booklet, the companion, on page 1. Return again, Hashivenu. call up Michael Schlipak and Anda Kuo to light the candles. And the candle lighting prayer is on page 688. Please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Lehadlikner shel Yom HaKippurim. Thank you. You may be seated. Let's take a moment to land here. Take a deep breath. Another. Notice the vessel that is our body, which brings us to this moment. Whether you're here in person or you're joining us virtually, you are all being carried by the flesh of your living bodies. Yom Kippur is a strange day for our bodies because tradition would have us believe that we're attempting to get our bodies out of the way to make space for our souls and our spirits. All the prohibitions of Yom Kippur make that clear. But on Kol Nidre, the tradition also sends a body-positive message telling in the form of the talit. It's saying on this night, everyone is invited to cover our bodies in a talit. So whether that is your custom, if that's your custom, whether or not that's your custom, I appreciate the message that our bodies are the vessel for our souls, and they too need to be lifted up. So if it is your custom, and you have not done so yet, I invite you to put on your talit, and we'll say the blessing together. Looks like most of the people who brought a talit are on, but I will still say the blessing, which is on page 690. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. And just for those who don't know, it's the only night of the year that tradition says the people in the congregation wear the talit. Otherwise, it's usually just the person leading the service. Rabbi Diane Elliott writes, real spiritual practice is often painful, particularly at the beginning, when we have the courage and honesty to see ourselves in our folly for the first time. An open heart is not only more receiving of love, it's more sensitive to pain, especially our own. Dr. Abraham Joshua Heschel writes that embarrassment and shame are what hold us back from praying our deepest prayers. For me, this rabbi writes, the point of spiritual practice is to keep dancing on our own edge. As we practice, we can look for where we've fallen into a place of comfortability. What might we still be afraid of expressing? or ashamed of showing. I call up Kelly Kozak for a Yom Kippur reading before we start the Kol Nidre.
This is a poem by Philip Schultz, Yom Kippur. You are asked to stand and bow your head. Consider the harm you've caused, the respect you've withheld, the anger misspent, the fear spread, the earnestness displayed in the service of prestige and sensibility, all the callous, cruel, stubborn, joyless sins in your alphabet of woe, so that you might be forgiven. You are asked to believe in the spark of your divinity and the purity of your words of your mouth and the memories of your heart. You are asked for this one day and one night to starve your body so your soul can feast on faith and adoration. You are asked to forgive the past and remember the dead, to gaze across the desert in your heart towards Jerusalem, to separate the sacred from the profane, and to be numerous as the sands and the stars of heaven, to believe that no matter what you have done to yourself and others, morning will come and the mountain of night will fade, to believe for these few special precious moments in the utter sweetness of your life. You are asked to bow your head and remain standing and say, Amen.
Matt, Rudolph, and Hannah Jacobs to open the ark and to hold the scrolls. And once the ark is open, we all rise for Kol Nidre. Page 692. Veshiva Shemala Uveshiva Shelmata Al Data Makom Ve'al Data Kal Anu Matirin L'Hitpalel Im Avaryanim. 694. 696. V'nislach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lagel hagar b'tocham ki lechol ha'am bishgaga Slach nalavon ha'am hazeh kegodel chastecha ve'asher nasat al ha'am hazeh mitzrayim ve'ad hena ve'sham ne'emar vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. Shechianu on the bottom of 696. v'kimanu v'higiyanu hazman hazeh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu hazman hazeh. I also just want to acknowledge our president and past president here who held the Torahs for us. Thank you very much. You may be seated as soon as the ark is closed. Okay. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Hannah. My invitation is to see every part of the Yom Kippur service as possessing the seeds of consciousness expansion. One way we plant that seed is through group prayer. As we enter into the evening service, the liturgy sprinkles a pathway of seeds to our regenerative growth. Will one of these seeds take hold? What does it take for the davening, the praying here, to really work, to really grab us? If not the davening, what kinds of spiritual practice will work? What kinds of spiritual practice will seep into your bones and wake us up? We continue with the evening service, starting with Baruch 708. I was going to give you another minute. Hold on. I'll tell you when. Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vayed. We continue with round and round. Which is not in the Machzor.
Morning
מבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני. איי 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 המרי ורבים. עולם החסד ייבנה. ואהבתך לא תסור ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני. איי 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 איי. Ay, 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 Ohev Amo Yisrael. Sorry, I meant just to sing that part, not to stand up. You can sit down again. But you're very attentive. I appreciate that. You're really on target. You're ready. You're ready. Okay. I call up Lisa Garbus, who's going to read an annual or Shalom tradition of reading a piece about your family related to the Shema that we'll be doing right afterwards.
My grandmother was 27. She was holding a bag, and she was holding my mother, who was 2. It was 1942 in Piotrków Trybunalski, Poland. They were on a firing squad line, about to be shot with 4 other women and 1 other child. I return to that firing squad moment every time I hear the Shema, or say it, or watch my kids say it. I return to that moment because my grandmother said to me, "We were first in line to be shot." I had the Shema on my lips. But they started to shoot from the other end of the line. I dropped my bag, held on to Esther, and ran. She ran into an abandoned building and up to the 3rd floor where they spent the night. It's a long story. I'll jump ahead to say that my grandmother, Naja, lived for 50 more years and died between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in 1992. How much time do we have before we die? What will we do in that time? When my grandmother thought she had only seconds left, she began to speak the Shema. Why? Was it to pray, to use her last breath to reaffirm her connection to the universe? Or was it an act of defiance, of proudly affirming her identity as Jewish, as other, at the very moment she was being executed for being just that? Was it a goodbye, an acceptance of her imminent death? Or was it a staunch refusal of death? No, not yet. Was it all of those things at once? Was this a subversive prayer? Did the words of the Shema somehow move from her lips to her feet? Did her prayer help her run? Did it help her hold on to her child? Did the Shema help her live that day and other days? Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. I know there's a lot of commentary about what those words mean. For me, they're about what it means to be alive in the face of death. They're about what we do with the time we have left, whether that's 5 decades or 5 seconds.
I call up Mars Lapin and any teenagers that want to join us for the Ve'ahavta. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 7:14. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
Thank you. We continue with a song of redemption. Page 2 in the supplements.
Silent Amidah starts on page 740. We'll start with the Chatzi Kaddish on 736, and then Silent Amidah is 740 until 774. So we'll give ourselves a little time for that. So please rise. Yitgadal, Yitgadal, Shemei Rabbah, Be'amad Yivrachirutei, Be'amlich Malchutei, B'chayechon, Uvyomechon, Uvechaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala, Uizman Kari, Veimeru, Yehesh Merabah Mevorach, Leolam Lameamaya, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpar, Vitroman, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitalev, Vitalal, Shemede Kudsha, Berichu, Leela, Leela, Min Kol Birchata Veshirata, Tushbechata Venechemata, Damiran, Be'alma, Veimeru.
continue with our healing prayer. When the music slows down, I'm going to read out the names, and I'll invite you to say the names of those for whom you are praying for their health. Barbara Gustafson, David Hartsoe, Paul Hartsoe, Stanley Garbus, Barry Caron, Lisa Ryan, Paula Granados, Rizard Ostrowski, Davina Reed, Linda Carter, Katie Stein, John Green, Sally Lewis. Receiving of comfort, of relief, of just the next breath. Amen. When I ask people what the primary emotion of Yom Kippur is, I usually hear words like serious and solemn. It's a day that we really feel our own mortality. But the sages say that on Yom Kippur, we are rehearsing our own death. They say that Yom Kippur is 1/60th of death. And I think they're trying to get a point across to us that we should take this stuff seriously. Engaging in our own process of tshuva, of returning, is a worthwhile endeavor. Re-engaging and reinvigorating our lives, seeking forgiveness, and making right where we've made wrong. Those are worthy of our refocus. When I think the sages mean about the role of death, it's more of a reminder. And I'll quote Norman Cousins, who said, "Death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside of us while we live." I call up Tom Hertz for the Ya'aleh on page 782. As the ark is opened, we re-rise.
תחנוננו מערב, ויבוא שבתנו מבוקר, וירוא רינוננו עד ערב. יעלה קולנו מערב, ויבוא צדקתנו מהבוקר, וירוא פדיוננו עד ערב. יעלה עינוינו מערב, ויבוא סליחתנו מבוקר, וירוא נאקתנו עד ערב. יעלה מנוסנו מערב, ויבוא למענו מהבוקר, וירוא כיפורנו עד ערב. יעלה אישנו מערב, ויבוא טהרנו מהבוקר, וירוא חינוננו עד ערב. יעלה זיכרוננו מערב, ויבוא ויודנו מהבוקר, וירוא הדרותינו עד ערב. יעלה דווקנו מערב, ויבוא גילנו מהבוקר, וירוא בקשתנו עד ערב. יעלה ענקותינו מערב, ויבוא אליך מהבוקר, וירוא אלינו עד ערב.
Ashikoach. You can stay standing on page and turn to page 812 for the 13 attributes. Adonai, Elohim v'chanun, Elohim v'rav chesed v'yemet, notzer chesed alafim, nosei avon v'afesha v'chatama v'nakem. Adonai, Adonai, Elohim v'chanun, Elohim v'rav chesed v'yemet, notzer chesed v'alafim, nosei avon v'afesha v'chatama v'nakem. Page 816. In the middle. Eloheinu lehavotinu imotenu, selach lanu mechalanu, kaper lanu. Ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu, anu anecha ve'ata avinu, anu avadecha ve'ata Adonenu, anu kehalecha ve'ata chelkeinu, anu nachalotecha ve'ata goralenu, anu tzonecha ve'ata ro'enu, anu karmecha ve'ata notrenu, anu be'ulatecha ve'ata yotzrenu, anu rayatecha ve'ata dodenu, anu segulatecha ve'ata kerubenu, anu amecha ve'ata malkeinu, anu mamirecha ve'ata mamirenu, yai 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 Please be seated. What makes the Kol Nidre and the Yom Kippur service in general unique from all other services is the vidui. It's the only service where we have a confession. We confess the litany of our destructive behaviors for which we humans are continuously guilty. Actually, there's one other place in Jewish life where we do a confession, and that's on our deathbed. In both scenarios, on Yom Kippur and at the end of our lives, we know there are no do-overs. We know that we literally have to live and die by the consequences of our actions and our words. This stuff is real, and it's heavy, and there's a real power to acknowledging how far we have strayed from who we truly can be. The not-so-simple act of cultivating awareness, that is the first step to getting interested in our own liberation. And right here, I have the list of the sins that were written out by members of Shalom a few weeks ago at a Slichot service. So at each of the Yom Kippur services, I'm going to read out some of the sins anonymously, of course. For the sin of forgetting all the beauty in the world. I want to take better care of my body and mind. I want to put aside my tendencies towards defensiveness and fear of being seen as wrong. I'm often so sure that my husband owes me an apology that I can't see that I should apologize just for being unkind and self-righteous about whatever minor transgression has happened. For the sin of arrogance, thinking I know what's best for my kid, or come to think of it, anyone else. More patient with my adult children and their decision-making process. I want to work on speaking up instead of stewing in silence. I choose for the sin of choosing shallow pleasures over what I really want. I want to stop interrupting people, which is arrogant and makes the other person feel less worthy, not worth listening to. I want people to feel honored and heard and like I am present. I'm going to try to learn to breathe instead of talking over. I say yes to too many things, and then I'm not really present for most of them. I argue with myself, worrying what others will think instead of focusing on true wisdom. I overschedule myself, and then I resent the time and attention that my husband and family need. Every year, I promise myself to work on the sin of omission, meaning I want to not forget, to let my loved ones and friends know how much they mean to me and how much I care about them. Inertia is a constant struggle, but if I am honest, the real roof of my inertia is fear. Just two more. For the sin of less gossip, for the sin of gossip and sharing secrets. For the sin of self-doubt, self-hate, self-loathing, judging others, anger, depression, anxiety, laziness, selfishness. We rise for the Vidui on 8:20. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, ay 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 ay. Ay 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 Hevinu vehir sham Maradnu, Hamasnu, Tafalnu Shaker. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Yatsnu ra, kizavnu, latsnu, maradnu, niatsnu, sararnu, avinu, pashanu, sararnu, kishinu horef. Ay, 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 ay. Rashanu, shichadnu, tiavnu, tainu, titanu. Ay, 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 ay. We stay standing for the Al-Chet, page 827. We'll read responsively in English, and then at the refrain, we'll join together. For the wrong we have done before you in the closing of the heart. For the wrong that we have done before you, whether open or concealed. For the wrong we have done before you through the prompting of the heart.
And for the wrong that we have done before you through the influence of others.
For the wrong we have done before you, whether by intention or mistake. For the wrong we have done before you through our foolishness of speech. Done before you in the palming of a bribe. For the wrong we have done before you through misuse of food and drink. And for the wrong we have done before you through offensive gaze. Selichot, Selah lanu mechalanu, kaver lanu, ve'akulam Elohai selichot, Selah lanu mechalanu, Selah. For the wrong we have done before you by our quickness to oppose.
And for the wrong we have done before you by deception of a friend.
for the wrong we have done before you by unwillingness to change,
For the wrong that we have done before you by our running to embrace an evil act.
for the wrong we have done before you by our groundless hatred,
And for the wrong that we have done before you in the giving of false pledge.
Ve'ahulam Elohai Selinu Selach lanu mechalanu kahelanu Ve'ahulam We turn now to 460 for Avinu Malkeinu, the final prayer of the Slichot section. We'll be alternating between the traditional and the bottom part, Imenu Mekorenu. Shana Tova. Gemar Chatima Tova. Legend has it that Rabbi Akiva was 40 years old when his life changed. I'm talking about the Rabbi Akiva, most famous rabbi in the entire rabbinic period. By age 40, he had not learned any Mishnah. He was illiterate, in fact. Rabbi Yitzchak et Shalom recounts the famous story. Just after he turned 40, one time he was standing near a well, looking at the relationship between the rocks and the water. We don't know why he's hanging out by the well. All we know is he is a shepherd. He's looking at the rocks and the well and the indentations that have been formed. And he says, "Who made those indentations?" And the response from the people around him was, "The water keeps coming, and eventually the water eats into the rock." And then they said, "Akiva," he wasn't yet a rabbi, "don't you know the passage in Job that says water wears away and erodes the rocks?" Immediately upon hearing that, he made his first kal v'chomer, a rabbinic comparison. If soft stuff like water can engrave hard stuff like rocks, then the words of Torah that are as hard as iron certainly will cut into my heart and flesh, which is flesh and blood. In other words, water which is soft can eat into rock which is hard, then Torah, which is hard, can certainly eat into my brain, which is soft. This famous story is used to inspire young students to learn Torah, that everyone is a beginner at some point, even the wisest among us. But it goes way deeper than Torah learning. Rabbi Akiva is not only demonstrating awareness of the long game, but he is demonstrating awareness of two poles of thought: limitations on one hand and unlimited potential on the other. And he's 40. For the average lifespan in the 2nd century, that's probably the equivalent of 65 years old today. But what's really happening to Rabbi Akiva at this moment? Some would call it divine inspiration. Whatever you want to name it, there's some kind of voice inside of him saying, "There's a lot more to you, Akiva. There's a lot more inside of your life already well lived. Your life has just begun." The Unatana Tokef prayer highlights what the rabbis referred to as the Kol D'mama Daka, the still small voice inside of the soul. For Rabbi Akiva, his life took a radical turn when he saw the impact of the water on the rocks. A still small voice within him made itself heard. What he once deemed impossible was all of a sudden possible. The Kol D'mama Daka, his inner voice made itself heard, and it changed his life. And that is what I'm talking about tonight. Accessing the still small voice within each of us. That's a big reason why we pray and why we show up for Yom Kippur, and the reason why so many of us fast. We hope that the still small voice within each of us will show up and make itself heard. The small voice who truly gets us, who can help us make the profound change that we so crave. So how do we access that small voice? Well, maybe we first need to realize that it already does show up in our lives. But when? Rabbi Marcelo Bronstein writes the answer to that question in a poem that he wrote. The still small voice of the soul survives. It is relentless. It's resilient. It overcomes cynicism, sarcasm, musts, shoulds, next, noise, and above all, fear. The still small voice of the soul lives, and exists in spite of us. It's always there, looking for an opening, a crack in the armor, a moment of silence. It waits patiently for an opportunity to show up. It shows up in the most unexpected forms. It shows up in dreams. It shows up in stress and illness. It shows up in a book. It shows up in surprising emotions after a random comment. It shows up in nature. It shows up with a stranger that asks a naive question that comes with no expectation for an answer. The still small voice wants to be heard. It desires to be acknowledged. When we hear the still small voice of the soul, we say, "Wow, it's so good to hear you." And the still small voice of the soul always answers, "It's so good to be heard." We intuitively know that the small voice is there within us. So how do we consciously access this small voice? Does our truest nature just show up when it feels like it? Or does it just make cameo appearances in our lives? Or can we live more deliberately into our kol? This ancient Hebrew word, the kol is the voice. It's the ancient Hebrew word for vocal voice, but also the soul's voice. How do we consciously access our still small voice? And how do we recognize the blocks, the numbness for some of us, the darkness that prevents us from truly looking in and getting interested? Sometimes that voice is right there. And sometimes it's so deeply buried under a cloud so thick that it induces us into a waking sleep. Yom Kippur is an invitation with all of its prayers and theological complexity and all of its themes. I'm going to boil it down to this. Yom Kippur is an alarm clock for the soul to wake up that still small voice inside each of us that desperately wants to be heard. And I feel this personally. I know you're hearing my voice now, but this is a cameo appearance for me. For most of my year and most of my life, I involuntarily suppress my own voice. I'm so uncomfortable admitting that, and I'm so grateful to say it at the same time. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own souls." Yeah. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The internal gymnastics we do to avoid inner work. But Yom Kippur, and all its imagery around death and forgiveness and asking hard questions about our life, this is the alarm clock holiday to wake us up and re-invite that deeply buried voice back into our lives. And as I continue to get interested in my own liberation and uncovering my own voice, I find myself attracted to the stories of our ancestors, both the ones who lost their voices and the ones who found them. And I also find myself curious about a God who expresses God's self through the use of voice. Let's go there for a minute. I appreciate a shul that isn't afraid to talk about God. The metaphor of God as a kol, as a voice, is a powerful idea, and it's all over Jewish tradition, especially in big moments. Right at the beginning, at the dawn of time in creation. How does the Torah describe those first 6 days of creation? What is manifesting the world into being from the tohu vavo, that formless void? We know the answer. According to the Torah, it's God. But it's not just God. It's God's voice. And God said, "Let there be." And there was light, and it was good. The world comes into being only after the words are spoken. Soon after creation is completed, Adam and Eve, they hear the kol, the voice of God. Also a formless voice in the Garden of Eden. This kol, this voice is telling them which fruits to eat, which fruits not to eat. If only they had listened. Later on, when Cain kills Abel, God's voice calls out to confront Cain and famously says, "What have you done?" The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. In all of these early moments of the Torah, God isn't represented by something visual. It's the kol. It's his voice. I see a connection being made, that God's voice is linked to our voice. The Torah says that humans are made in the image of the divine, but there's no actual image to draw from. And we also know that the Torah uses a lot of different metaphors to describe God. So what if what made us divine was our voice, our kol? Our voice is derived from God's voice, the same voice of creation. And it's not just in Genesis either. In Exodus, the kol is the primary metaphor used when Moses is receiving the Torah from Mount Sinai, from God on Mount Sinai. The word kol is used 4 times in a very short span in the moments when we're receiving the Torah. There is something transformative about this specific metaphor. When God's kol was used, the status of our people changed. We were no longer simply a tribe of former slaves. We became a mamlechet kohanim, a nation of priests. We became the people of the book. Kal v'chomer, so too for us today, when we as individual human beings can access our own kol, our still small voice, our lives begin to change. I love this quote from Rabbi Toba Spitzer in her book, God is Here, which I referenced at Rosh Hashanah. She says, when we understand God through the metaphor of voice, we give expression to a foundational experience of something moving through us. Voice is about communication and connection, what we put out into the universe and what we take in. And she also adds this beautiful quote, we don't merely sing in order to make a beautiful sound, but to develop and express something deep within us. So what do our voices need to express? What aspects of our souls have we avoided? That is up to each of us to tell our own story. Let me take a moment to share a piece of my story in an attempt to forge a new narrative. I am a child of an alcoholic who grew up in a family war zone of a high-conflict divorce. I was too young to have a say in what was happening to me. I was thrown into step-family systems before I knew what hit me. There was no place for my feelings and reactions. I was so stuck and frozen in my stuckness, and so awkward. My body was in distress. I had more allergies and respiratory issues than anyone I knew. I felt like a total physical mess. I was deeply loved by my parents and unprotected from the fallout of a complicated divorce. My shock, deep sadness, and rage were fully suppressed, and my only defense was to disappear, to dissociate. I made myself irrelevant. And that would be a trait that seemed to engrave itself within me. Since my own divorce 3 years ago, I have slowly but actively decided to look at the story of myself that for most of my life I couldn't handle. Even as I tell a small part of this tale, I can feel the numbing cream that my brain releases so I won't feel anything resembling sadness or anger. The coping mechanisms of my childhood have equipped me to act like everything is hunky-dory while completely ignoring what's going on under the hood. But the still small voice within me has been calling for a seat at the table. And yet my central nervous system, my regulatory system, wants nothing to do with this fantasy of inner work. But here we are. I don't believe that Yom Kippur is a holiday for seeking comfort. If you're here tonight, Kol Nidre, or watching this service virtually, there's a good chance that something is not right in your life. Something is out of balance. Some aspect of your life is deeply out of whack, and it's either punishing you incessantly or you're generally oblivious to it because you're too numb. And if what I said doesn't describe you, and you believe you are personally living in a well-balanced life, then take a look at the world around you. The voice of your brother's blood cries to me from the ground. The voice of the earth's blood cries from the ground. Things are not normal. Look at the path we're on as a civilization. If we really pay attention, our world is on fire. It feels better not knowing. I know personally that a fog that numbs me often feels impenetrable. But we're here tonight to wake ourselves up, to believe again, like Rabbi Akiva, that was once deemed impossible can all of a sudden be possible. And we need to tap into our innermost Kol, that wise, still, small voice within us. The need for that has never been greater. The noise of our lives, the world around us, it makes it impossibly hard to listen deeply. Yet, that voice, when I let myself hear it, when I let myself listen to it, has communicated something amazing to me. That fundamentally, we have everything we need. Each of us has a Kol, has a voice perfectly suited to who we are. Quoting again from God is Here, that book I referenced. In a rabbinic commentary on God speaking at Sinai, the early rabbis taught that every Israelite, every single Israelite, received the divine voice according to their strength. Whatever their age, their gender, or their experience, each person receives God's voice, God's Kol, according to their personal ability or capacity. This teaching suggests that the voice at Sinai could have overwhelmed anyone who experienced it, but yet that didn't happen. Each person was able to channel what they needed to receive it in such a way that the voice became life-sustaining instead of life-threatening. We have everything we need right here. The seeds of our personal liberation and social transformation are within us. I'm not making this up. These are the message embedded in the high holidays, in these 10 days. Return. Return to your voice. Listen. Avoidance is a choice. Shine a light on the darkness. Listen. I'll end with a quote from Emily McDowell. She says, finding yourself is really not how it works. You are not a $10 bill in last year's winter coat pocket. You are also not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself, an unlearning, an excavation, a remembering who you are. On this Yom Kippur, may we remember the Kol Dmama Daka, the still, small voice of the soul that resides in all of us. And may we find the courage to beckon it back into our lives. May we have the strength to acknowledge, name, and work with all that obstructs us. We got this. Let's get interested in our liberation together. We continue with Adon Haslichot, page 794 to 796.
First, I want to hug you on behalf of the community. Gmar Chatima Tova, everyone. First of all, I'm so happy to see all of you. It's been a while. I don't know if this is a holiday or whatever makes... No, Mike?
Oh,
Mike?
I
Oh,
forgot
right.
to say, this is Zahava. One of the angels who welcomed, one of the many angels who welcomed me into this community.
Can you hear me now? Oh, yeah, I can hear myself. Well, again, Gmar Chatima Tova, everyone, and it really is wonderful to see all of you. And I'm standing here really with, I would say, mixed feelings, but maybe that's the holiday for it. On one hand, I'm overjoyed to see so many of my students here. For my first days at Shalom, they are here, and they gave me a hug, and they wanted to hang out with me, and that is something. And the other thing is, like probably so many of us, we share losses in our lives, and this week, we lost a very dear friend. And the reason I'm mentioning him is because really he embodied with him the word tikkun, really healing, caring, fixing, making sure that this world around us is so much better. And I feel that this is the work we do here. And the Rabbi, you mentioned what we need to find, our voices, how to find these wonderful voices inside of us. And Vavi, who could not be here today, reminded me of something that she presented to me today, really, and I'm going to share it with you. It's by Rabbi Israel Salanter, who lived many years ago, 1800s, and he wrote this, and I think for me at least, this is what it means for me to be here with you. He said, when I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it was difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change the nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change the town, and as an older man, I tried to change my family. Now, as an old man, I realized the only thing I can change is myself. I suddenly realized that if, long ago, I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family and I could have made an impact on our town. Their impact could have changed the nation, and I could indeed have changed the world. So finding our cold mamadaka, our smaller inside, inner voice, to change who we are, to change everything around us is so important in this Yom Kippur. And first of all, I want to turn and thank you, Rabbi Ezra, for your wonderful open heart and leadership and bringing us again as a community so we can observe and you can continue our traditions and become the community that we are. So I want to say Toda Rabba for that. I'm sure on behalf of so many people here. And my voice is really drawn from so many people who came before me, and that is the song I want to sing with all of you, of course, Adon Slichot. And as somebody mentioned here many years ago, we need to stand for it as a community and really sing with everything that we've got. Adon Slichot bochen levavot גולה עמוקות, דוברת צדקות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, חטאנו. הדור בנפלאות ורב העליליות, זוכר ברית אבות, חוקר כליות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, טוב ומטיב לבריות, יודע כל נסתרות, כובש עוונות, לובש צדקות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, חטאנו. מלא זכיות, נורא תהילות, סולח עוונות, עונה ואת צרות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו. פועל ישועות, צופה עתידות, קורא הדורות, רוכב וערבות, שומע תפילות, תמים דעות, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו, חטאנו לפניך, רחם עלינו.
Mike, thank you. We are going to continue with Aleinu. One more standing prayer. Page 1202. When you have a part in this, the part that I want to ask you all to do, just two words, Ein Od. Ein Od. Ein Od. Ein Od. Ein Od. That's your part. Ein Od. Ein Od. Ein Od. Ein Od. One more time. Ein Od. Ein Od. Ein Od. Ein Od. Everybody continue with the ensemble. Leinu leshabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שנתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם, נטע בתוכנו נוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד. אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים מודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו שמיים ממעל, ושכינת זו וגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד, אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבב Adonai hu Elohim bashamayim mimal ve'al haaretz mitachat einot einot bottom of 1206. Hakatu b'torato Adonai lo v'olam va'ed v'nehemar v'haya Adonai l'melech hakol haaretz bayom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish, which is page 1216. I'm going to read the names of those who've lost this year or are marking their yard sites. And then I'll leave a space for you to mention those who have not been mentioned. Richard Sheehan, Sandy Matthews, Sharon Richardson, Herb Isaacs, Brian Ellis, Trudy Lionel, Rebecca Strook, Seda Banu, Florence Rosen, Burton Mayer, Mark Brickman, David Gershon, Carol Rifkin-Gelber, Tony Fox, Michelle Coleman, Fred Averill, Nina Lamb, Mark Brickman, Joyce Solomeno. Yard sites include Avigdor Ben Adolf, Bruce Budnick, Daniel Eli Chengar, Don Finkel, Elizabeth Summer, George Landau, Helen Landau, Joseph Benjamin Gavrin, Joseph Galley, Laszlo Frankowitz, Leonard Rudolph, Lloyd Landau, Mark Garcia, Margie Friedland, Martin L. Sandberg, Michelle Coleman, Miriam Galley, Rebecca Bainton, Richard Denholtz, Richard Sheehan, Roger Henry Rifkin, Rose Thurm, Sam McCann Kingston, Sam Pinto, Sandy Siegel, Saul Winchell, Sonny Fine, Sylvia Stein, Tony Fox, Walt Jessen, William Schulman, and Ishaya Grama. Okay. Page 1216. Yitgadal ve'yitgadash shemei rabbah ve'alma divrach yirutei ve'amlich malchutei b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar, v'yit alev, v'yit halal, shemei dekudsha, le'ela, min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Kol Yoshvei Tevel V'Imru Amen. You may be seated. We welcome our Executive Director, Amy Maller, for some information.
Shana Tova. First, a word of thanks to our music ensemble and to our choir for just leading us in beautiful service this evening, as well as to Reb Ezra and to Zahava and all those that volunteered this evening. Thank you so much. Tomorrow morning services will be at 9 a.m. for family and 10:30 for the main service. We are starting something kind of new this year, from what I understand. We're going to do all-day programming. So for those who want to stay the entire day, we have programming starting at 1:30, and you can go out to the hall and see which type of programming you want to be involved in. There's everything from yoga at 1:30 to a walk with Deborah Frankwist, to also our healing service at 5:30, as well as our, our Nahila at 6:30, and Yisker and Nahila, 6:30, followed by a break fast in the courtyard. If you haven't reserved for the break fast, no problem. You know there's always plenty of food. So Lashana Tova, everybody, and a happy and healthy new year, as well as a meaningful fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. We're going to, one more prayer on page 1241, and then we'll conclude after that with our closing benediction. Stand up and grab hands. blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. May the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. Last time, may the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your heart now and forevermore. Shana Tova. Shana Tova.